any person on the street can look at a piece of gold, know what it is, and accept it as a valuable item, and you have it in your hand. And that physical quality is almost better than anything else in terms of that specific storage of value.
I can't go out down to the supermarket and spend it. But at the same time, you're not saying this is not just a collectible here. What's your plan, and what does that look like over the next 5 years in terms of getting this technology and getting gold into the hands of people? Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. First of all, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like it, give us a thumbs up. It would be much appreciated. And do leave your comments below. It helps us understand the sorts of questions you'd like us to be asking, how you think we're doing, and of course, what you thought of the company. You can also catch this as a podcast on cruxinvestor.com, along with an article and a transcription. And for our Crux Club members, you can get this as an early access video. And if you haven't already done so, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Of course, for more videos like this, click the notification bell. We spoke earlier today to Adam Trexler, who is the president and founder of Valaurum, and they make Aurums. Now, what's an Aurum, I hear you ask? Well, it's a way of holding gold. These guys have got a technology which allows them to spray gold onto a film. They can do it with different denominations, so from $3 to $150, easily transportable, easily collectible, but they've got bigger plans than that. They think that this could become a denomination which can be spent every day on the high street. Big plans, big ideas, will cost a lot of money. It's currently a private company, so we kind of have a route around, look at their board. It's quite impressive. Has allowed them to have conversations at federal bank level. That's pretty good for a small company. We also look at their business model and some of the hurdles that they've got to overcome. So lots to discuss, kind of interesting, definitely worth a look. So take a look in the description below, some of the many topics discussed. Anything stands out for you, click on the number beside that topic. That's called a timestamp, and I'll jump you to that part of the video. But enjoy what Adam has to say. Adam, how are you doing, sir?
Very well. Very good to meet you.
Well, yes. How are you? You're on the West Coast. How you bearing up?
Very well. It's exciting times over here.
Exciting times, crikey. I've not heard it described as that. But look,
I should say it's very sad times in the country at large. It's very exciting times for the company, and I spoke in that capacity.
Right, got it. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about Valaurum today, which is your company. But why don't we, before we get into that, why don't you give people a 1-minute overview, as it were, and then we'll kind of pick it up from there and discuss it.
Sure. So Valaurum is really a gold technology company, and what we've done is we've produced a series of products that are all on the Aurum technology platform. And what we're able to do is make basically a banknote-sized product that has 21st century authentication features and is in monetary increments. And what I mean by that is you can buy an Aurum for as little as $3 and as much as $150, which puts gold back into a transactable form.
Right. Okay.
And we are growing explosively, and we view this as the future of physical gold ownership.
Right. We're not going to break that down. Thanks for that summary, by the way, but we're not going to break that down. I want you to sell to me. I am your average investor for the sake of this conversation,
okay,
and try to understand why I need Valaurum or one of these Aurums in my life. So you showed me a shiny object just then. That I take it that's an Aurum, is
right.
it? Okay.
It is.
And you talked about different currencies there, and you want to get gold back into the hands of people. We've got to start with the obvious one, which is, so this is effectively a banknote. So does this need to be regulated in any way? How do banks feel about it? How do the regulatory authorities feel about it? I mean, how have you been allowed to do this?
Yeah, great question. So we don't say that this is a denomination. Actually, we say we sell in terms of a weight. And there are private mints throughout the world. We are a private mint that has a unique technology. So any regulation would fall under minting law, which obviously varies by jurisdiction. And for most of our products, we are issuing a 1,000th of an ounce of gold, a 20th of an ounce of gold, and that's what we say it is. Now, I should say that we also do work directly with central banks. That business is expanding very quickly, and we're sort of climbing a chain of credibility there. Here's a bill that was actually put out by Cook Islands. And then one thing I'm very, very excited about, it's just about to launch. This is a legal tender note from Ghana.
Wow.
So Ghana will issue these. So people can buy it as a monetary instrument, a true monetary instrument, or you can buy it as a bullion product.
I mean, they look. I just got excited because it was nice and shiny, but which isn't the point, really. Because that kind of comes into the world of collectibles, which let's talk about that in a second. So right now, I can go to you and could I create my own, for instance?
You could, but we would want you to buy 5,000 of them.
Okay. So I could do that. Okay, fine. So I got a little bit too excited about the shiny gold paper. So let's start off with, like, how is it made, first of all? Because you're telling me there's gold in there, but it's obviously held together with something. So what's the technology behind it, and do you own it?
Yes, yes, we do, and we just got another patent for it, which was very exciting for us. And it's a very high tech process. It's actually a nanotechnology, and what happens is that we have very long rolls of polymer film, see-through polymer film. Those are put into a deep space vacuum, so there's absolutely nothing in this chamber. And then we create a spray of individual gold atoms that we build up on that film. And through this process, we're able to control exactly how much gold is put down at a level that far exceeds, say, a conventional foil. The other thing that we're able to do, because we're putting gold down atom by atom, is we are actually structuring the entire gold, laminate, the gold film, in 3 dimensions. And what that does is it makes something that's very, very difficult to counterfeit. And we just received allowance of another patent connected to that. And so if you look at the back of this, what you're looking at is a 3-dimensionally structured, all of this is gold. And if it has a sort of mirror-like finish or not, that is structured as an image within the gold itself. And that's put down atom by atom.
Okay, so you just said there it's very hard to counterfeit, because that would be was going to be my next question. But you're telling me it's hard to counterfeit. You know that how? As soon as people start trying to do this stuff, they're going to be able to create it good enough to pass as one of your notes, aren't they?
We can never say that nothing can be counterfeited. Just as, the Bank of England or Treasury can't say that either. What I will say is that we are continually making huge investments into anti-counterfeiting. We have other government-level anti-counterfeiting features built into our issues, depending on the one it is. And I think the comparison to make is compared to a conventional coin. So if you look at a conventional silver coin or a conventional gold coin, in actuality, the precious metals industry has a huge difficulty, which is that almost no one will authenticate those coins except for a dealer. If I came to you and said, "Hey, Matt, I have 10 ounces of gold. Will you buy it for me at the market rate?" I don't think you would take it from me. You would be very, very nervous about that transaction. The reason for that is that the coin is a 2,000-year-old technology that struggles with authentication. And what we believe is that we have the correct platform for the 21st century, because we are able to structure the gold atomically and then incorporate 21st century anti-counterfeiting features into that. And so what we want to do is make physical gold transactions very, very frictionless. Okay,
so in one of your documents, you talk about reflection, color, and spectrum, back image, electrical resistance, oxidization, serial numbers, etc., microprinting, and so forth. So there's this patented technology. So is anyone going to be able to come in and compete with you on this?
We think it will be very difficult. We have a huge first mover advantage. There are huge barriers to entry and very difficult trade secrets to produce gold in this form.
Trade secrets. That sounds exciting.
Manufacturing secrets.
Right. Exclusive to you, proprietary to you, patented by you. Okay.
Correct.
But at some point, if it works out, people are going to want to do their version of this. Thus, it has always been.
Well, and we've seen that in the market. I mean, this space of small form gold is being intensely fought over. And what the general market has tried to do is shrink coins and bars to be tiny. So you have a 1 gram bar that you might have seen these. They're the size of my pinky nail. They're very difficult to authenticate unless they're in this huge wrapper. And we think going from this sort of atomic level up is a much better and actually becomes more cost effective in that form. But the barriers to entry are very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, what you say is a good point. The fact that gold is gold, and people want to hold gold, and they're now able to start holding gold in different forms. There's, I think, Dubai, a couple of years, there's a vending machine where you could go and buy your gold from a vending machine, which they proudly announced to the world. And there are, smaller denominations, different ways of consuming gold, basically. And this is in danger of possibly just being another way of getting gold. Your vision's bigger than that. So you don't want to be I just want to recap. You don't necessarily want to be a collectible, although I got quite excited when I saw these sorts of designs that you can have there. So I can see why they might become very big in the collectible space. But you want them to actually be used in everyday life, and there's some hurdles to overcome there, and that's the bit that kind of I can't see yet, and I guess you don't necessarily see yet, but you have a vision for. So that's that's fair enough. But so maybe we sort of come forward to what you're trying to do today. You're raising some money at the moment to do what? How much money? What are you going to do with it, and where's that going to get you?
The first thing is that we're in the middle of a $1 million general round where people are investing directly in the company and are funding our R&D and basically our continued market expansion. And the second thing we're doing is we are looking for a major partner who will finance factory expansion. We are projecting that to cost $2.5 million. And that will quadruple our production output while dropping our costs. So, those two are our market need for the next year. Yeah.
And so just planning this forward, because it's kind of like a lot of things, you kind of need to get to scale to keep reducing the cost, and you've, given us a new market, you're creating a market. How do you know what the size of the market's going to be, and therefore sales and therefore margins? How do you start putting those numbers together?
We work on it every day. What happens is that you build up the market, you see explosive growth, and then you have to meet that, or you try to be a bit ahead of it. But we run a very tight ship. This is a margin product. So what we can't do is go build a $100 million factory and say, if we build it, the people will come. And so what we've had to do is sort of inch our way up between production capability and demand. And I think we've been very successful with that. And we've seen double, triple digit growth every year.
I guess it's one of the downsides of creating a market. You're having to, it's quite an expensive way to do it, having to do it in increments because you're not quite sure. As you say, if we build it, they shall come is a strategy doomed for failure for a lot of sectors. So it's going to take time for you guys to actually build the scale that you need. But that's why I'm asking about competitors being able to come in here and enter the fray and cannibalize your market, which you've gone to the bother of creating. You think that the barriers to entry are too high, do you?
I do. I mean, I think a state could come and do this, but I don't think the market is big enough. This is the underlying technology of this is designed to produce millions of feet of material. What's very difficult for us in the beginning was that our batches were so small that it was very hard. Just turning on the machine dwarfed the cost of the gold. Now we're starting to escape that, and we think we can have quite exciting growth. And then as we have these partnerships, we have really great people involved. We have security features that you can't just walk up and buy. We have a world-class product that it's going to be very difficult to compete with.
So why have you chosen this model? Why haven't you gone to some of the larger mints and licensed this to them? And you clip your coupon, you don't have to raise any capital. They've got all the infrastructure. It's all good, right?
We were not ready for that. I think that will be part of it, and that's why we're working with Ghana. I think that it's very likely that in 10 years, this will become something that major mints do under license. What we've had to do is show A, market demand and market acceptance, and B, learn how to scale, because we were this very difficult technology product that could not be manufactured for anything approaching the premiums that needed to be done. And we've learned how to do that. We've learned how to incorporate all these things. We've developed a significant IP portfolio. And I think one way or another that you're going to see much more of this technology.
How do you ensure, like with Ghana, I mean, how serious is that conversation with them? Because, I get the novelty factor, but how do you ensure a consistency and a robustness to their approach to this, that they do adopt it? It is something that continues to be used.
I think that we are winning the conversation of being a serious mint that is offering a product that people will accept. And we have developed a great team. We have a former director of the U.S. Mint, Ed Moy. We have former GC of the Department of Homeland Security in the United States. We have former people from Treasury and so on. So you need to build up the credibility of this particular form, and then you work with central banks to make sure that it's distributed to their people. And there's a clear incentive for central banks to do that, and there's a clear incentive for individuals to want to own gold. So we think it will happen, but our need is to not make a critical error that will kneecap the whole thing. So what I've chosen to do is grow relatively slowly. We haven't gone on a Facebook model. We've gone on a cautious but rapid expansion model, because I don't think that it will fail.
That's interesting you talk about a Facebook model. I mean, because there are so many different ways you could come at this. You mentioned, I was intrigued by some of the names you mentioned there. What is their actual involvement? Have they just put their name to this? Are they advising you? How have you used the connections that they may have?
Some of it is them being able to speak about with credibility to central banks about how this is an important thing to do for a central bank. So that is a kind of official level conversation about us providing a service to them. The other thing is that we have people on our board of advisors actively working to incorporate the same security features that you would see in paper money. And we have some of those. We're going to be bringing out more. And as we incorporate those with our atomic gold deposition, you have something that's very, very difficult to break. And we think that credibility will become our greatest asset as the public learns about what we're doing.
Let's say I end up with one of these Aurums of yours. How do I get it verified? Would I be going, because it's new? You're new in the market. I know things are going great guns, and for lots of reasons people are wanting these. But who do I go to? Can I go to the normal coin dealer?
In the UK, it would be a bit more difficult because we're not as far along in the United States. In the United States, yes, you would be able to go to a normal coin dealer. And what's happening is what we have is a platform, and what we want to do is enable jurisdictions and areas to set up their own gold model. So, for instance, in Utah right now, there is a group, they call it the Utah Goldback. I just want to show you this. They have 5 denominations, ranging from 1,000th of an ounce up to a 20th of an ounce. And they are building up a store network where you can go into a store and sell and spend gold. They also have a dealer network where you can exchange frictionlessly back and forth between dollars and gold. So what we want to do is encourage more of those kinds of projects. But of course, the challenges will be different in different jurisdictions.
Right. Okay. But with regards to that dealer, you're talking about a kind of retail network, a channel through which you sell these things. But that verification and authentication just doesn't happen overnight. As a small company, how do you train those people up to be able to do both of those things, or even want to do both of those things, and more importantly, where do they make the money?
Dealers make the money the same way that they make money on gold coins and bars. There's a spread, and they make their percentage, and depending on your dealer, they're going to make more or less. That's a fairly efficient market system. It is true that a huge part of our efforts really are building up that network. And this is really an educational process where both the public and then the kind of coin and bar retail network both need to know what these things are and become familiar with them. And, when we were really launching an actual product 3 or 4 years ago, no dealers knew what these were. They had never seen them before. They didn't have very much comfort with it. As they've learned about the security features, as we've reached major networks, that's decreasing. And we think we'll continue to make great strides in that area. But it's a long-term educational process, and nothing. We have 2,000 years to catch up to the ubiquity of the gold coin as an image of value.
Right. Okay. So I want to get on to the features, in terms of a bit more back to the IP and what you're able to do and what you're able to create in a second. But can I first just talk about, so who's the audience that you're after here? Realistically, and what's the process to getting there? You can't go from 0 to 100% overnight, so you're going to have to go. You must have a plan. So, what's your plan, and what does that look like over the next 5 years in terms of getting this technology and getting gold into the hands of people?
We really have multiple strategies because it's such a complicated problem of how do you get to anything that looks vaguely like global adoption. The other problem we had that's driven our plan is that because this is really a technology company, it was very, very expensive to make it first. It cost us $30 to put down $2 of gold when we started, which is obviously not a very good value proposition. So what we decided to do is we started in the collectible space first. That became a good kind of bread and butter business where, if you have licensed products or something like this, people are excited to have gold, and they're not as worried about the kind of investment spread. With volume, we have become more and more able to enter and be competitive in the kind of mainstream coin and bar market, where our 20th of an ounce products at a wholesale level is becoming quite competitive indeed. And then as you get to the smaller increments, we actually are the only game in town. So I see our strategy as twofold. One is to develop partnerships with distributors who will really spend the time and money to create a network of people who understand the value proposition. That's very jargony. What I mean is, in Utah, a group of very smart people are building a system where people can trade in gold, and that has seen explosive interest, and we think there will be quite a bit more of that. What we want to do is get a beautiful and secure manufactured product to those people And then that creates a grassroots movement, and we are seeing that grassroots movement. On the other side, we are working with central banks to have something that is true legal tender, and that's kind of a top-down approach. And so what we're seeing is that these are slowly coming toward the middle, and I think as you reach that kind of official acceptance, grassroots demand, you'll start to see ubiquity.
So why do people want this? There's lots of ways they can hold value. Obviously there's different ways they can hold gold, and we've talked to various people about bars, ingots, coins, as whatever however they want to receive. So hold value, they're able to. So Bitcoin, actual cash. Yeah, there's lots of ways for people to do it. So why is this important, do you think?
I think it's a two-part question, Matt. The first, and your viewers probably need much less convincing than others, but the first is why own gold? The reason I believe people should own gold is because it's an incredibly liquid market, trading in hundreds of billions of dollars a day, with probably $10 trillion market cap. That means that it is independent of any nation, and it has a market price that exceeds any national economy, or it's responsive to forces beyond any particular national economy. People have been participating in that market for thousands of years, literally thousands of years, and have desired gold for that reason. And what we've seen in the last 20 years is a decrease in access to gold, and in the developing world, a collapse in gold demand. And the reason for that is that it is no longer affordable to buy a gold chain or an ounce at $1,700, $1,800. And so what's happened as a result is that gold is becoming more and more of a rarefied investment. Now, that to me is not healthy for gold. 100 years ago, anyone in the world would have recognized a gold coin and been able to authenticate it. It was a universal form of value. Now you have to go to a dealer who is going to squint at it and perform tests because they don't particularly trust your gold coin. And it's actually very difficult to trade in. So we need to get back to a gold system, where basically any person on the street can look at a piece of gold, know what it is, and accept it as a valuable item, not because I say it's valuable or something like that, but because it has an international market. And I view the true value proposition of gold as a way to store value that is both permanent and easily holdable. So I think ETFs are great if you want to make day trades, but there is a quality of gold that means that you can hold an intensely concrete, condensed form of value and walk away with it or give it to somebody else, and you have it in your hand. And that physical quality is almost better than anything else in terms of that specific storage of value. So I would encourage people to own some of their gold portfolio physically, where they can lay their hand on it. This is not a new idea to me. This has been around since the beginning of time. And consider holding it in a form that has increments that you would actually want to spend.
Okay, but then it comes to the point that I'm struggling with, which is the ability to spend it. I get that holding it in this form, it's easy. It's easy to store. It's easy to carry. It's in different denominations in terms of value, and which is great. But I can't go out down to the supermarket and spend it. That's not what you're asking people to do. But at the same time, you're not saying this is not just a collectible here. You are talking the language of someone who says, well, I do want people to be able to spend this on, I guess, in certain situations.
Yeah, I think that we're in an educational process. And as I said, there are places where you can spend this today. We are not there at a ubiquitous level. If we were, the company would be valued at probably 1,000x of what it is today.
Okay, but again,
what we have to do is build up that network.
Right, but that's going to take time. It's going to take money. It's people have got to be accepting of your vision of the future. I can see why whether it be the banks may talk to you now because you're no threat to them. You haven't got the scale, so they're kind of interested in talking to you and understanding what you're doing. But just in the same way that they're interested in talking to Bitcoin companies, with Ethereum, etc. Those have been given the time at the moment because they're not a threat to anyone. But people are trying to work out how to kind of monetize those digital coins. Why do you think you're going to be given the chance to breathe and survive?
Well, there are larger private mints than us that are. I mean, it's a legal function. I think that gold is an element, and in even a relatively free market, we should all be able to trade in that. What we're doing is simply making it easier to authenticate and easier to afford than the currently available market options. But we also intend to work with authorities to make sure that it is legal. And I think we'll continue to grow. I see this as an option for people, not the only game in town.
It is an option. The way I feel about it is that it's an interesting way to have gold, physical gold. It's very attractive, what you've got, but it's a store of value which may change as the price of gold varies over time, because there's a certain amount of gold in that that polymer film that you've got. So if price of gold goes up, the value of that piece of paper goes up to me. And that's what I understand. It's the next leap to being able to use it as a monetary value, which has a different daily rate. So how would shopkeepers, how would stores, how would automotive retailers be able to, on a daily basis, tell me what my piece of paper is worth? I mean, you're going to have to work out the mechanics of all of that, aren't you? And that's a very expensive thing to implement into the ecosystem.
And there are, one thing that I think is really interesting is that in strong currency jurisdictions in the EU and in the UK and in the US, where people are very trusting of money, we're very used to having one standard. When we travel and do projects elsewhere in the world, people are very comfortable and indeed need to hold 2 to 3 standards of money at the same time. I mean, when in projects we've done in South America, people are very accustomed to having their local currency, dollars and euros. All business is done in dollars and euros because it's much more stable. And they need their local currency for other kinds of transactions. So perhaps it won't be every day I go and buy a gallon of milk at the store with my gold. But as you say, I think it will be, I'm going to buy some more gold this week with my gallon of milk to continue to store value. And that kind of saving function with something that can operate differently from your local economy will become very desirable to people. And having it be beautiful helps with that a lot.
Okay.
And I view that as an overall good to the economy and to individual people's lives.
That may be, but you're also going to have a lot of people with different vested interests who don't necessarily want it to work out. So What would you say to people about your technology? Why is it gonna succeed? Why are you gonna win?
We're going to win because we're the most affordable, because we have the increments that people want, because we have the authentication features to make gold authenticatable by anyone.
Well, look, I wish you well. I mean, do come back on as things progress. I'm always intrigued by innovation, certainly in this space. Like I say, it's not necessarily a new idea, but it's a very new technology to allow people to hold gold. And you seem to have quite a team on board who will help you kind of navigate the regulatory components and be talking to the right people to allow you to do so. So, best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you very much.